Hi everyone, this is Mari Craig, and you're listening to the Small Steps to Wellness show, a podcast where we discuss how we can achieve more wellness in our lives one small step at a time. For the past 6 odd years, I've taken a special interest in nutrition and I've changed the diet of my family on its head. But as I've dived deeper into the world of nutrition, I have learned that health is so much more than just what we put on our plate. This is why on this podcast we will be talking nutrition, mental health, being in alignment, holistic health care, self-care, raising children and more. We will also be hearing stories of women's journeys to overcome trauma and what it has taught them on the way. When we share our stories, we realise we are not alone and that things can change for the better. I'm so glad to have you with me on this journey as I explore what health and wellness truly encompass. If you like what you're hearing, please consider rating the show with a 5-star rating and sharing it with your friends. It really makes a big difference. Now, on with today's show.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Small Steps to Wellness show with me, your host Mari Craig, where we are discussing how we can achieve wellness in our lives one small step at a time. Today, I am joined by Lucy Higgins. She is a mom of 2 boys living in Hertfordshire. She's an International Coaching Federation accredited coach who helps parents to achieve their personal and professional potential without sacrificing their well-being. Driven by her core values of fairness and empathy, she's passionate about ending the mental health stigma and achieving gender equality. Prior to retraining as a coach in 2018, she spent 20 years in corporate communications. She now works with corporates and with individuals running group and one-to-one career, leadership and well-being coaching programs. Her Instagram, which I love, is called Big Talk for Mums who hate small talk, because she believes we should be more vulnerable and supportive in the mum community if we want to challenge, and I can never say this word, patriarchal motherhood and create equal opportunities for women in the next generation. Welcome, Lucy.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm so glad that you could be on today. I've been following you on Instagram for a while because there was somebody said to me after the first lockdown, I was like, I'm so done with small talk. I can't be doing things. I want to have real conversations. And somebody said, well, you need to follow Lucy Higgins then.
Really?
And I found your profile. I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need. So yeah, so I'm so glad to have you on. Listen, you told me that you have just done a motherhood studies practitioner certificate with Dr. Sophie Brock, and I'm really intrigued to hear about this. What happened? Why did you get into that, and what have you learned from it?
Yeah, so when I retrained as a coach, I knew that I wanted to help mums, and I spent a few years helping them with work-life balance, like working parent coaching, maternity coaching, return to work, mindset stuff, a lot of my mindset work, like inner critic work. And I suppose as I was coaching people, I noticed the same themes coming up as you would. And there was a lot, as you can imagine, of guilt, a lot of mum guilt, a lot of shoulds, that feeling when you're like, oh, I should be doing more this, I should be doing that. And we'd question that like you do in the coaching space, And I suppose I just got more and more intrigued about why that was. And then when the pandemic hit, we saw, a disproportionate effect on mothers. So, they had the worst time really in society compared to fathers. I think we're all in agreement statistically. And again, I just started to think, why is this? Like, why is this happening? And I think I've always had that curious why about stuff because I did a sociology degree. So I'm always interested in how society is made up and why we behave the way we do, psychologically, but also sociologically. And I just thought, this is really important. Like, we need to understand why this is happening. And then I found Sophie Brock. And what she does is she's a sociologist in Australia, but she's a mum as well. And she has focused on motherhood research, which is a really, like, not many people have there isn't much research out there about motherhood. So it's very niche, but she's incredibly passionate about it. And the way that she wants to make an impact on the world is to train people up who work with mothers, giving them the knowledge about the social context in which we mother, to help women realize essentially it's not their fault that it's so hard, and that actually it's the social institutions, the structures, the narratives that we are socialized into when we become mothers that really hold us back and that impact our well-being.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if, I hope that makes sense. It's like I was sort of helping people with their mindset, and that's all well and good, but then you go out into society and you're like, oh gosh, it's still really hard. Yes, I can work on my inner world, but what about the external world?
Yeah.
Because that's not helping me to thrive.
Yeah.
And so giving them that understanding, I sort of weave it into my sessions, you know, when it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Giving them that information, I see their shoulders drop as they're like, oh, of course, because it's giving language to the invisible forces out there in society.
Yeah, because I don't think we realize that we're right in the middle of it, because it's so ingrained in us from birth, I think, from pre-birth, that this is the role we're meant to play. So we don't even realize until somebody points out, maybe this isn't quite right.
Yeah. And I think we've become so externally focused as individuals. And what I mean by that is in a sort of capitalist way, you know, we're all about buying things to help ourselves, aren't we, as opposed to looking within. So yeah, it just anyway, sorry, go on.
No, but that's really, really interesting. And you know, I haven't actually said in this podcast episode today what we were going to talk about, and the reason for that was because I said to you, can you choose something from what you've learned lately that you think might be a good topic to talk about? Because obviously the show is Small Steps to Wellness, and I think there'll be mainly women listening. And we talk about how we can achieve wellness in our lives, and that for a lot of people that just means nutrition, but to me that means everything. How can we achieve well, because I'm obsessed with food, obviously, but if I'm stressed out and feel pressured from all kinds of angles in my life and feel all the shoulds they talked about, then I'm not going to be a healthy person. There's not going to be much wellness in my life. So that's why I wanted to discuss this. So what topic did you think might be good for us to have a conversation around?
So I think a good one to start with is a model that Sophie Brock's come up with called the fish tank of motherhood.
Wow, okay.
So what it is if you imagine when you become a mother, you enter this fish tank, and you are the fish, and the tank is society, and the water is our socialization, so the conditioning that we were talking about, and the swimming is mothering. And we look around and we're like, oh, what is this new thing? You know, when you give birth, you're like, I'm in this new world, because you are, aren't you?
Yeah.
And then you look on the side of the tank, and there's all these rules of motherhood. This is what I should do. And it's like, you know, you might have heard of the perfect mother myth, or intensive mothering ideal. And in this day and age, we feel those shoulds, this stuff that we should be doing. And we don't really talk about it. Like, we just talk about the guilt, like, oh, I feel so guilty because of this or that. And no one says, well, that's because when you become a mother, society says you should be doing all these things, but actually it's impossible. It's a myth. You cannot do it all. And so we carry all this guilt. And I suppose I just thought it'd be interesting to bring that to this session, to this.
Absolutely. I think
those rules.
Yeah. And also, like, who decides on those rules, and where does that come from? Because I think sometimes, like, I think we as parents, especially as mums, because, you know, let's be honest, we're carrying this baby around, right? We instinctively kind of know what to do, but I think all the shoulds kind of take over. They're so noisy that you kind of unlearn how to listen to your own instincts.
Exactly. I mean, I was actually saying to a client this morning, she asked if she's pregnant with her first child, and she said, can you just send me all the advice on parenting. And I said, well, the thing is that there is a lot of advice out there, but I really would say, and I can send you some books and I can send you some resources, but I would really advise you to work on the mindfulness practices that we've been doing and look within. And I know that you're desperate for certainty and for knowledge, and that's good. Like, definitely look at some of those books. But I would also really connect with yourself, like inside, because like you say, intuitively, you will know a lot of this stuff. It's just that society tells us there's a right way to do it, and there isn't.
No.
Is there? I mean, what do you think?
No, I completely agree. And I have to say, you know, having 2 children myself, I think I've always kind of said that if I were to have a 3rd child, I think I'd do things quite differently, because you live and learn, right?
Yeah.
And I think I was more or less in tune with myself when I had my 2 girls, they're 9 and 6, because it was like, what should I be doing? What's the right way? What's the wrong way? And it's so easy to get overwhelmed. I got to a point where she's like, I didn't want to listen to anyone, because it was just so noisy. There was so much advice from everyone, and a lot of people mean well as well, but it was just so much noise that I was just thinking, I have no idea what to be doing and what I should be doing, and I technically should know this. It kind of, because something, you've spoken about this before with somebody else, you know, something changes within you, and I can't remember the word you used, but when you become a mum, and I think you automatically get some intuition and some knowledge that comes with it, but because of all the noise, we're just like, I don't know.
Yeah, so that's the other wonderful thing that helps my clients' shoulders drop, is there's something called matrescence, which is the transition into motherhood. So it's if you think of it, people go, what? I've never heard of that. But if you think of it like adolescence, then you kind of go, oh yeah, I understand that. It's, you know, the hormonal changes that women go through, the physical, the psychological, the social, the spiritual, you know, it touches all these domains. And as a mother, I know, you know, that's true. You will probably be able to write an essay on each of those domains and how you've changed over the years, and you know, what the influences were, and how, you know, maybe when your children were toddlers you felt differently to how you feel now that they're older, and that is completely natural. And I think one of our issues in society is that, and this comes back to the perfect mother myth, is that we believe, or we're told, that mothering is natural, and that we should be a natural mother. We should want to breastfeed. We should want to spend all our time with our babies. Otherwise, there's something wrong with us. We shouldn't want to shout. We shouldn't get angry with our children. You know, we need to have a job, a paid job and unpaid mothering job, and other stuff. Look after ourselves and our husbands and our parents. You know, it's never ending.
Yeah, and it becomes really toxic then, doesn't it? Because there's all of these shoulds that get to the point of, well, people are going to burn out, aren't they?
Exactly. And you've hit the nail on the head, is what I'm trying to do with my work, is to support women before they get to the burnout phase. So what I sort of lost my train of thought a minute ago, but I was going to say about perinatal depression, you know, and anxiety, that I personally believe a lot of people are misdiagnosed with those mental illnesses sometimes, and actually what they're going through is matrescence. So I was diagnosed with perinatal depression when I was pregnant with my 2nd child, but looking back on it, I needed a coach. I didn't need a therapist. I needed somebody to hold my hand and say, it's all okay, let's put together a plan, and I'll meet with you once a week and we'll get through this. You know, I didn't want trauma therapy. I was offered antidepressants and things. I didn't take them in the end, like, and that's my own unique experience.
Of course, that's personal to you.
It's personal to me, but I know so many people who struggle in that period, those early days, and immediately the GPs are like, red flag, you know, mental health, and it's like, no, not always.
No,
not always. And I think
through a massive change.
Well, this is what I'm saying, all these different domains, and that's not even taking into account any external stuff. So at the time, my husband closed a business and then opened another one, you know, so financially we were it was a struggle, and that was really impacting my stability. You know, my basic needs were being challenged at a time when I felt very vulnerable, and I couldn't I basically had resigned from my job, so my identity was really challenged, you know, and these are the women that I'm helping. You know, I want people to feel like they're not alone with this.
No.
Society lets us down with this stuff. You know, my old company really let me down. They didn't support me.
And this
in
is
the way that,
and the way there's the should. That's a should that would have been good, wouldn't it? Yeah. And also, I mean, you were a mum already, so you already then you're already dealing with, then you're in the middle of this, you're pregnant with baby number 2, which, I mean, hormones going mad, let's be honest, right? And then you are dealing with, going back to the myth of the perfect mother. You're supposed to do this is all natural. You're supposed to be able to hold down a job, be pregnant, have a toddler, I'm assuming at the time, support your husband, all of these things. I mean, it's a big ask of anyone. And do you have any support around close by?
No, I mean, my family were, but I had friends. But I consider myself extremely lucky and privileged. I definitely am in a privileged social situation, or socioeconomic situation.
And you're finding it hard though.
Exactly.
Exactly. What does that say?
So, well, it just says, I suppose what comes up for me there is guilt. So I then think, and I know a lot of my clients feel this, you know, why do I find it so hard? Because according to the rules of society, I've got everything I need to make this a success and to be a good mother, but yet I'm finding it really hard. So what's wrong with me? And that's what we do. We internalize, we point to ourselves, we don't point to society. And
so
say,
I've got two questions on that. But I've got 2 questions on that. So one, and I've forgotten one of them already. One, what does that say about society? And 2, I remember it now. How do we overcome this feeling of guilt? I mean, that's probably asking you, how do you do your job? Because how do you coach women to get an understanding and an appreciation of, it's not me, it's them, or society, they, but also, you know, what's wrong with society then? You know, because you said something earlier about, before we started, I think, about you help women navigate being in prison almost. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
So what should I talk about first? How I deal with the mum guilt?
Because that's because you basically you help mum navigate this whole thing. So how does that work?
Okay, well, specifically with mum guilt, what I tend to do is just get really curious about that feeling. So a lot of women, I notice, they just say it, and it's almost like they're not attached to the emotion. They're sort of like, oh, I just feel guilty about this, I feel guilty about that, and it just rolls off their tongue like it's normal. But actually they're carrying quite a heavy load there, that guilt. So we get really curious about that emotion and where it's coming from. And what I tend to do is, in my brain, what I'm doing is we're questioning, is that a core value of yours that's making you feel guilty, or is it society? So let's for instance take the example of screen time. I don't know a parent that doesn't feel guilty about screen time. Like everybody's like, oh, they've had too much, they've had, you know, no one says, oh, they've had too little screen time. It's always too much. And you know, take that as a trivial example, but where's that coming from? Is that a core value of yours? So we do some work around their values, like identifying what are your 5 values that you live your life by now that you are kind of going through matrescence, you're going through this big change, your values are going to change. So let's put a spotlight on those. What are they? And I've got an exercise that we go through. And once they've got those they've got that code of conduct then that they can live their life by and make decisions by. So if, for instance, they give them McDonald's, they can go, well, why am I feeling awkward about this? If they're feeling awkward, and they can go, oh, well, guilty. And they can go, oh, well, it's because one of my values is health and wellness. And, you know, so it makes sense of it. Or if they're feeling really happy about a choice that they've made, again, it reinforces their values. They can go, oh, that's because I care so much about this thing. That's why I feel so good about it. So that I think that self-awareness piece is so important. So it either comes from the values or it comes from society. And Dr. Sophie Brock talks about imagining like a little guard on your shoulder who is employed by society to watch you. And she calls it the gazing guard tower of motherhood. And this little guard is there. Is it coming from him? Okay, and we just get really curious, or her. And if it's coming from this guard person, we question it. And so we'll be like, okay, so do you believe that, what society says about screen time? Do you believe that it's bad for them to sit there for 2 hours? Or what would be acceptable for you? And they might say, half an hour a day. So we've got we've unpicked it and gone, okay, well, what? And then we're moving someone forward so that they can actually take action and start to feel empowered with that knowledge, as opposed to weighed down by this guilt that they don't really understand.
Yeah, and
maybe that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, it makes perfect sense, because we are, you know, there's all that, oh, my children are not going to have the screen time when I have them, and they're always going to be eating healthy food, and they're always this, that, and the other. And by saying that, you're putting all that pressure on yourself to always live by those standards. And I think, frankly, that's impossible to I mean, gosh, during lockdown, if you had to work, where were your children? They were on the screen most of the time, really. I mean, yours, I mean, people's children in general.
Yeah,
they were on the screen. And that's kind of the reality of it all, isn't it?
Yeah. And again, Mary, how did that happen? That happened because the government made the decision that mothers would pick up the load and that they would do it. And then all these women left the workplace because they had to look after their little toddlers. Some women with older children could work. But yeah, of course, those older children are going to be watching telly or on the screen. What else are we meant to do with them? We're in lockdown. But we still carry that guilt. There's still guilt there.
Yeah. And the question is then also, I suppose, do dads carry that guilt? Or is that something that has been so ingrained in us? So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
So in my experience, because I've started coaching dads recently, and what I've realised is they do. So not realised, what my observation so far of this is that they do carry it, but it's not as deeply conditioned. They don't have the guilt. They don't have as much guilt. And I think that comes from having done this course. I think it comes from the evolution of the mother and the role of the mother, and how, like, essentially our social attitudes and expectations of the mother haven't changed since the 1950s, but the demands on us to have a career and to all the things that we've just talked about have become huge, and therefore we just have this constant push-pull. So men don't have that to the same extent.
No, in general. Obviously there will be some, but no, I don't think that's to the same extent. And it's interesting. I had a chat with some of my mum friends the other day exactly about this, and how it's obviously it seemed as the obvious thing that we would always pick up from school, no matter if we work or no matter if we don't. We do the school run. We split it in our house, but that's because it suits my husband, because that's, you know, his working hours. But it's seen as this sort of thing that obviously women are going to do that, and obviously we're not gonna. The other thing we discussed was organizing play dates for our children when we know that we're going to be working, so the dads have to have the play date, and we're like, oh no, we couldn't do that to them, but we do it to ourselves. And it's all of these things that it must be society or like conditioning throughout generations, right? that has taught us that no, you need to leave the poor dads be, and we'll just take it all on ourselves. And so it's interesting. I mean, you help then women work within this box that we're all in. But then the question is also, and this is probably a whole other podcast or a whole other discussion, this box is kind of a bit dysfunctional.
It's very dysfunctional. Yeah, the fish tank.
Yeah.
Well, when we say dysfunctional, I think I personally believe, and I'm still really, honestly, I'm still going through all this research and trying to get my head around it all because there's so much of it. I just feel like we haven't caught up. It's like technology and globalization and individualization, you know, capitalism, the way that we have this feeling that we can have it all, we can create the life that we've dreamed of, and it's all on us. It's all on us. No one's going to do it for us. And I just feel like we need to calm down. It's like we've just, and so much noise, and everyone keeps talking about all this noise, and it's like, well, then we need to stop buying it. We need to stop fueling this capitalist, consumerist life that's that, you know what I mean? Like, and just calm down.
Yeah, I feel like a profanity should be added in between that.
I mean, when you say, it's difficult because it's like there are so many benefits to it, aren't there? There are so many benefits to technology, but I think it's at the detriment of our well-being. It's to all of this busyness and pressure. And
have you found though? Yeah, go on.
No, I was just going to say, it's not like one person is responsible for this.
Oh, no.
This is just, all it is, you know, social change. It's really interesting. Like sometimes you and I, you know, when we've chatted before, we've got quite angry about it, haven't we? But it's just how life is, isn't it? It's just how society evolves, and it's just quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if you're able to see it from that angle, that is interesting. Yeah, and also, as you've been saying before, different topic, but like, it's well and good to be angry about things and be frustrated, but then also this is reality. So how do I work within the frames that I'm in? But I was going to ask you, during lockdowns, obviously, speaking to a lot of mums, we found it really quite hard. But I found for me though that it has also given me the time to realize what I value in my family, in society, how I want things to be, how I want things to be for my children. I've noticed how they are when there's less noise around them. I basically, as a result, I've cut back on social engagements and after school engagements, because I see also that there is enough pressure on them from school, not our school in particular, but education. There's enough pressure from whatever, all the things they have to do already. So I've tried to strip back a little bit, because I've just realized that what matters to me, and I wonder if more women, maybe you know this, maybe if more women have discovered during lockdown what really truly matters to them.
Yeah, I think lots of people have, if they're reflective people. I think,
because we've had the time, haven't we, to sit and just be.
Yeah, and I remember when we first went into lockdown, saying to a friend, me and my friend were discussing it, and we were saying there's going to be so many breakdowns, because this is the first time that a lot of people will have sat with their feelings and their thoughts, because there's so much distraction, isn't there, nowadays?
Yes.
Like if you've got an uncomfortable feeling, you just go and distract yourself with whatever, you know, going out, work, alcohol, and socializing. And we couldn't do that. So yeah, I agree. But I also think, I do worry that some people haven't used it to their advantage, if you know what I mean. Like they haven't, but then that's their choice, isn't it? Like, but yeah, of course, I feel like it's got to have been a learning experience for people. Do you know what though, as well, Mari? I think we're still very much in it. I know we're not in lockdown at the moment, but I think the reason I don't have a conclusion on this is because we're still in it. And I feel like this is all the fallout of this whole pandemic is just going to happen over years and years, and you know, in 20 years time we'll be looking back and we'll have the answers to that.
Yeah,
because we'll see the shift, we'll see the social change and the attitude change. I mean, already, you know, you've got flexi working that's been approved. That's amazing. That wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the pandemic. Sorry, I think it would have happened, but I think it would have taken a lot longer.
yeah, and that is benefiting women, isn't it?
Yeah, that's benefiting parents, families,
in
children,
general. Yeah,
yeah. So that's great, and that shows reflection, and it shows that the government have listened. But I just think it's going to take some time. I think, yeah, and I think that, you know, I don't know about you, but I know a lot of people splitting up at the moment. A lot of change happening in people's marriages, and like you say, you know, this is people reflecting on what's important to them and realizing life's too short. So I don't see that as a bad thing. I know there's a lot of pain in divorce, but if people can live more authentically, they are ultimately more happy.
Yeah.
And a happier society is what we all want. So
I think you're onto something, and to pull it back to the whole myth of the perfect mother again, living more authentically is living true to your values, right? Not what you should be doing, or how you should sleep train, or how you should feed, and whether it's baby-led weaning or not, and when you should go back to work and how dare you go back to work, but what works for you, what works for your family, what makes sense to you. What I find really interesting at the moment is the women that I work with who are pregnant with their first children. You cannot say that to somebody, like, you need to work out what's right for you, because they're in a situation where it's so unknown, and everybody nowadays wants certainties. So you really, you know, and that's why one of the programs, the corporate programs I work on, is based on this premise of matrescence. It's amazing, this program. And so what you do is coach women when they're pregnant, and then you coach them again afterwards when they've had the baby, and you reflect on how they thought they were going to feel versus how they feel now, and therefore what support they need, what actions they need to take. Have their values changed? Do they now want to go back to work full time? You know, and you support them through it. Because when you said that, then I thought, if anyone's listening who's pregnant with her first or something, they'll be thinking, well, I'm not there yet. I don't know how. No, I think it's impossible. I meant when you have your child and you're in the middle of it, and you're just like, I don't know what to do. Having the tools to be able to kind of take a step back and go, but that doesn't resonate with me, but this is how I feel. But I think when you're pregnant, you're so right. I mean, I had no clue what I'd feel, or how I'd feel, what things would be like. No idea. You can't.
It's quite scary.
Imagine.
Particularly if I was quite an anxious person, so for me it felt really scary. I was sort of always thinking something bad was going to happen, and you know, being hyper vigilant. And I think a lot, that, you know, anxiety's on the rise, depression's on the rise. You know, lots of women feel that way. So yeah, the more support the better, I think, for mothers.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, with coaching, like you were saying about the values, and you're right, like designing your own version of parenting, I think, is key. Like, that's what I try and help people with. So they feel more self-assured, they know what they want, they know what their values are, they know what they're prepared to let go of and what's important to them. And then that takes away a lot of the angst, the guilt, the tiredness, spending time with people that don't serve them. You know, we do a lot of work on boundaries, how to say no. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it?
No, but it's all of those things I wish I knew then.
Well, yes, exactly. Yeah. And I think the sooner you can stop people-pleasing behaviour, because a lot of people have people-pleasing behaviour, me included, the better. And in fact, that links into the kind of small talk thing, doesn't it? Because yes. I think, like, the reason I called it that was because I really truly believe that if we could just be more vulnerable with each other in the mum community and say how we're feeling without judgment, imagine how much happier and supported we'd be if we could just support each other.
Yeah.
But there's so much judgment, there's so much bitching, and Dr. Sophie Brock talks about it's called the good mother, bad mother binary, and she says basically we need to have a bad mother so that we feel like a good mother.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because it took a bit of while to get my head around.
No, but that makes sense. Yep.
But essentially, we're never just the good mother. We're always going between the two, aren't we? And that's the guilt and everything. So we feel a bad mother if they've got too much screen time. We feel a good mother if we give them organic food and put them to bed on time. But you can't possibly be that good mother all the time. So what we do is put other mothers down to make ourselves feel better. And it's all amplified in the media, amplified by society through the messaging that we get from adverts, from consumerism. And once you see it, you can't unsee it.
This is exactly, we talked about this before we started recording. Like, wouldn't it be so amazing to not see these things? What a life we would lead if we weren't aware of these things. Because knowledge is empowering, but it also freaks me out sometimes.
It does, but I'm definitely in my cohort in this course, we all felt very anxious and angry at certain points along it. But towards the end, she takes you through, well, yeah, but what can we do? Now we know this, what can we do to help people? And that's very healing, because you're like, okay, actually, this is great. Because, like I say, even just mentioning matrescence to people, they're like, oh yeah, makes them feel better.
Yes.
That's a small piece of information.
And I guess that comes from your own experience, right? Because I bet you would have loved to have this information when you had your first child.
That's exactly it. And I think, people go into careers, don't they, in their second or third career, when they see that they wish they'd had that when they're younger, if you know what I mean. So what I try and be is the coach that I wish I'd had, which is why I do the maternity coaching, because I wish I'd had someone then. And then also when people have children a bit older and their identity is changing, I definitely needed a coach then as well. I just think we need to support each other.
Yeah, no, I'm so with you. Yeah.
Have you ever had a coach or?
I did. I used to be a secondary school teacher in a previous life, and I had a coach then that is set up in school for people who wanted to be coached. And do you know what, it was so good. In the beginning, it took me a while to get my head around this whole thing that she was just asking questions, and I was like, but just tell me something. Tell me the answer. But actually, how much more empowering, isn't it, though, to come to your own conclusion and come to your own answer? Because you're not just, because what happens is then, I'm hoping I'm right here, the coach is there to guide you to find your own answers, because the coach is not always going to be there right next to you telling you what to do. So the whole idea is kind of like parenting, though, isn't it, that you are able to stand on your own 2 feet at the end of the day, and you will have learned the tools to, how to find the answers to whatever challenge you're facing. So it's a cool experience. It's a cool thing to do. I think many more of us could do with having a coach at one stage or another. I think what you're doing is so important, and I think I just love your Instagram handle and all the talks you have there with people. And it's the same thing. I mean, we've only met twice in real life, and the first time we met, we were like, right, so, and it was not like, it wasn't like, yeah, so how are you? Okay, so you're married. It was like, right, so it's a bit annoying what's going on in the world, isn't it? And then blah, and then we had basically a big talk, didn't we?
Yeah. I mean, I was saying to some friends at the weekend I hadn't seen for 2.5 years. They were like, I can't believe you're doing that Instagram thing. Like, I never would have thought you'd do that. And that's a whole other podcast, the reason that I set it up. But why I thought of social media as so toxic and judgy and full of mean people. And all I've experienced is kindness, compassion, empathy. And it really proves to me that if you put that stuff out into the world, that's what you get back. And my relationships have deepened with some of my closest friends because of that Instagram. I've got in touch with my cousins that I haven't seen for 20 years. I've made friends like you, who, you know, I've got an instant deep connection with. People. And I always used to crave those relationships that you'd make when you're traveling or something, you know, those real deep, you'd be like round a campfire and someone would sit next to you and you'd have a really honest, deep conversation with a stranger. I really craved that when I became a mother, because there wasn't that. It was all small talk.
Yes.
And people pretending
Yeah.
that they were okay when they weren't. I really did hate that. And so now I can't quite believe that this little app can create so much joy in my life and so much connection. So I would advise anyone to do it, as long as they do it on their own terms and they feel like it's genuinely them and they're not doing it as a should.
Yes, this is it. This is another thing.
Should.
Yeah, social media can be fantastic if it's used kind of the right way. What's the right way, she says. But if it's used in a positive way and you engage with people who kind of bring you joy but teach you something or empower you or inspire you, there is a whole world of good communities out on social media. I think we mustn't forget that, because there's enough bad stuff going on there, but there's so much to learn. And I find Instagram, obviously not being paid to say this, I just find it a really nice place to be.
I do.
Yeah,
I do. And I just, it really shocked me.
Yeah.
I never thought of myself as someone, I just thought I was too old. But you know, I didn't know how to use it. I'm not very techy. And now I suppose what it's done is it's helped me not care what people think, actually. I never thought I'd get to that place, but I feel like I am. I don't care.
What a feeling, hey? Or what a burden off your shoulders. Yeah.
Was it Hannah, our mutual friend, says, she says, if you ever start caring, think my message is bigger than me.
Yeah.
You know, like, just get out of your ego, because no one cares.
Get over yourself. No, it's true. Get over yourself. Just do it. Yeah. I think it's great what you're doing. I think it's just, I think it's, I just can't rave about it enough. And I share your Instagram with so many people. I was like, you need to follow this woman.
Well, so lovely, thank you. That's really kind. Like, but
I think you're so onto something. Like, we need to be kind to each other, because we have been conditioned to not be on each other's side as women, and that's just so messed up. But it is what you say, we need somebody to be the bad mother, and so if you find somebody else that is worse than us, then we feel good about ourselves, and that we've got to break out of that, because that's not serving anyone. That's certainly not bringing any wellness, is it?
No. And that's another thing that we can do, to basically put a chip in that tank. So if you see it like getting out of the tank, you know, the fish tank,
yes,
is by not fueling those conversations. So if you see hear another mother slagging another mother off or whatever, you don't get into that conversation, or you offer a more empathetic view. You know, I often say to people, we don't really know what she's going on with her. Like, you've no idea what she's dealing with at the moment. And people go, oh yeah, I suppose. And it's like, yeah. Why do we not have empathy?
No, but we are so conditioned. I mean, I'm sure I have those thoughts and I have those feelings and I say those things myself, because we're so conditioned to looking at other people who do something differently, and we think, oh, should I be doing that? Oh, is that right? Oh, you know, so it's great. We need to go in and reflect on these things, because at the end of the day, you said perfect mother myth. It is a myth, isn't it? Nobody's a perfect mother, nobody's a perfect father, nobody's a perfect person. We just are.
Exactly. And the clearer we can be about who we are, I think the happier we'll be, because then our choices will be aligned with who we truly are, what we believe in, as opposed to what other people believe in or what society says we should believe in.
Yeah.
And then by doing that, we are basically putting two fingers up to patriarchal motherhood, aren't we?
Yeah.
And to patriarchy. If we carry on arguing with each other and judging each other, we're not looking at what they're doing. So we need to stop doing that and look at what this fish tank is, and start unpicking it and bashing the glass and trying to get out of it.
Mm.
That's what I think.
I love that analogy. Listen, if people want to work with you, I think they should. What's the best way of getting in touch with you? And you also say as a coach, you need to make sure also that there is a connection, right? That you're the right coach for that person.
Oh yeah. 100%.
How does it work? If I say, right, I've listened to this podcast, I need Lucy in my life. How does that work?
Well, I always do like free 60 minutes where we talk of, we'll talk about my story, we'll talk about your story, we'll discuss what you hope to get out of coaching. And it's just a total, informal chat to see if we've got chemistry, essentially, because if you don't have rapport with a coach or a therapist, it's not going to work. Like in my view, that is the absolute fundamental ingredient that you have to have. And I would never work with someone that I thought I couldn't help, or that I didn't have rapport with. It just won't work.
No.
So I always do that. And so you go to my website, which is Big Talk for Mums, or my Instagram page, which is @Big Talk for Mums. My website is bigtalkmoms.co.uk.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I just love meeting people. So I believe, I'm quite kind of woo-woo in some ways. I think the clients that I'm meant to work with, that are meant to teach me something, come my way.
Yeah, I love that. You're attracting it.
Yeah.
I need to have you on again, Lucy, to talk about other things. Let's get you on again, and we'll find something else to unpick. But I think this has been really interesting. I think so many of us feel all the feelings you described, but it's about kind of taking the time to maybe take a step back and reassessing what's important to me. Sometimes you can't do it on your own, and that's what you're here for. Yeah,
I think it's really hard to do it on your own.
Yeah,
to have that objectivity, particularly when you've been through matrescence.
Yeah.
And you're tired, and it's hard.
Yeah.
So having someone else to talk to, and it doesn't have to be a coach, a friend, just chatting it all through and being honest with each other about how you really feel.
And I think you'll notice that as soon as you're honest, the person you talk to feel that they can be more honest and vulnerable too. Coming back to big talk again, hey?
Exactly. I think by being honest, you give other people permission to do the same.
Yeah.
So, and they just feel comfortable with you.
Feeling all their feelings. And again, we're here also as parents because, to teach our children that these things are okay to talk about. So the more we show vulnerability and honesty with our friends and maybe are open about it, our children, the more they also learn that these things are okay. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay not to know. Talk about it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, my children will say, stop asking me how I'm feeling, because I just ask them all the time. Stop asking me. I have to rein it in. I think I'm a bit extreme the other way. Need to be a bit less keen.
Yeah, well, we all have our ways of dealing with that. Listen, thank you so much for being on. It's been an absolute joy talking to you, and I will have you on again. We need to find another topic to talk about, but thank you so much again. And to everyone who's listened, I want to work with Lucy. I'll put her contact details in the show notes. She'd love to hear from you on especially on Instagram. Go and check it out. It's full of really, really good big talks for mums. So thanks so much, Lucy.
Thank you so much for having me on. I've loved it.
Fantastic. Take it out. Bye. You've been listening to the Small Steps to Wellness show with Mari Craig. I am passionate about helping mums get their energy back through simple nutritional changes, because we know that if mummy is happy, the family is happy. If you would like to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram under @smallstepstowellness, or visit my website smallstepstowellness.info. Speak to you soon.